a week of.
Dad?
Do you love it?
Yeah.
Google Chat is where it's at.
I think we're fixed.
All right.
Super.
Cool. Ask him if he's ready to start.
Yes, he said ready. So I think we're good to go.
All right.
We're live.
We're live. Perfect. Good afternoon. Sorry for the delay. Welcome to the Wednesday version of the budget workshops. Workshops are intended to provide opportunities for the commissioners to study difficult issues, gather and analyze information, clarify problems, or give staff direction. No official decisions will be made. Work sessions are on a floating docket. The schedule is provided for informational purposes only. Sessions will normally be considered in the order in which they appear on the schedule. However, all times are approximate and may begin at the commissioner's discretion. Additionally, the board may alter the schedule, take breaks during the meeting, or continue an item for a future work session date. With that being said, we will start out with PMC.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hello. Thank you guys for taking the time to have our meeting this afternoon. Our 2023 grant application is to benefit the replacement of our AEDs and defibrillators at PMC. So before I go through our application, do you have any specific questions for us that we can help clarify some of our application materials, or did you want us to go through our application, whichever, in respect of your time and whatever works best for you guys?
I think if you just go through your application, give us a general brief overview, and then if we have any questions, we can ask that afterwards.
Perfect. Okay, so our project that is requesting funds, we're requesting the replacement of 7 LifePak AEDs and 3 defibrillators in the hospital. The 3 defibrillators are located in the emergency department, the medical surge unit, and cardiopulmonary department. The LifePaks are, the AEDs are throughout the hospital. That, and Amy might be able to speak to their specific locations, but it's based on regulation where they need to be placed in the facility. The reason that we're asking for we're making this request is because Stryker, the manufacturer, is no longer going to be supporting the batteries that go into these units. So we are going to have to replace them in order to have them be usable by not only the public, but by our providers as well. That's really the gist. Our ask is $56,422.68. We did receive $3,000 earlier this spring from the Fairfield Trust to support the replacement of the defibrillators and the LifePak AEDs. If we were to be awarded funding, the hospital would absorb the cost of the battery replacements, which are $200 per defibrillator, and the AEDs are $300 per machine every three years to replace. So we'll absorb the cost of that going forward, but because Stryker is discontinuing those batteries is the reason that we're making this request today.
All right. So because we have a lot of grant requests and limited funds, if we weren't able to fund your project 100%, or just a portion of it, would you be able to carry forward with your project?
I mean, we're gonna have to, yeah, we're gonna have to.
This is life sustaining, so it's when you come in for a heart attack, your heart stops. There are different rhythms that you shock, and that's what these.
But so regardless, you're gonna have.
Have to have that, yeah.
Okay,
To be in code and everything.
Mhm.
all right.
What other grants have you sought out besides the Fairfield Trust?
For this, that was the only grant that we've sought for this particular item. You know, we will certainly look at other grant programs should we not receive funding and should we need to have some additional match. We can look other places. Right now, DOLA doesn't have anything, but there may be other, you know, grant programs for the region specifically that we could look into.
I just because I've
Yes.
been in the grant world
Yes.
myself, Colorado Health Foundations might be
Mhm.
a place that you might
Okay.
want to look into if we're not able to fund it all.
Perfect.
They-
Colorado Health Foundation. Okay.
Any questions, Jenny?
I don't. It's straightforward, I think, and I know what they're asking for and what it's for and all of that. So,
So it was my understanding that this was something that you guys did initially budget for, but due to unseen circumstances, you had to purchase additional equipment
Yes.
or something
Mhm.
else, a different department.
We did. We had a very tragic accident and lost our spine surgeon at the end of 2021 to an accident. So with that being said, we brought on a new spine surgeon and which required a $150,000 microscope. So that was an absolute necessity to bring him on and part of the hospital's obligation to make sure he has the proper equipment to perform surgeries. So that did take a big chunk out of the budget, but yet absolutely necessary.
Well, actually, that wasn't budgeted for, and these aren't budgeted by line items, so.
Well, no, the microscope wasn't budgeted.
Right.
No, that wasn't budgeted just because the surgeon had passed away after budget.
Okay. All right.
I don't have any other questions. We were easy on you guys.
Hey,
Well, we can be harder,
I know, we can.
but
Anything else?
we had some technical difficulties.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, it makes me sweat a little.
Yeah. Well, that's awful nice. Thank you.
Yeah. No, nice meeting you, Lionel. Thank you guys
Yeah,
for showing up.
you
Yeah.
guys.
Nice to meet you, and thank you. All right. This is our,
Chambers should be next.
okay.
They're here, so
It's here.
move forward.
We will move on to the Meeker Chamber. I'm a little bit slow, so give me
I
2
know, I'm
seconds.
like trying to find where they are on here.
They'll be used next.
Okay. That was my last click. Okay, gotcha.
You good?
Hello, Ms. Stephanie.
Hi, how are you?
All right, if you'll tell us a little bit about your project.
Okay, so I have two projects that I'm requesting funding for. The first one is to reprint the Meeker OHV map. This was a joint project with the county back in 2017, where we created these maps with the wagon wheel trails for the eastern portion of the county. At that time, we printed 2,000 maps, and we have 300 left. So we're looking to reprint. There might be a few edits, but that's all. We do sell these, and so we do use them as a fundraiser for a lot of our OHV marketing and such. We sell them at the chamber. We also at different businesses around town and also up in Craig at Craig Power Sports. So there is some income that we generate from them. So we're looking to request half of the amount from the county to reprint these.
And on those, can I interrupt you real quick on those? Does that cover the entire county, like the trails on the Rangeley side?
No, so Meeker and Rangeley have two separate maps. But what we are doing, and I wanted to show you this too, because it kind of goes with it, is we are continuing to promote OHV trail riding. And we just updated our trail riding book. And one side is Meeker, and then if you flip it, the other side is Rangeley. So we worked together on this one. We did get a grant from the Colorado Tourism Office, so that, you know, the first half are Meeker trails, and then flip it over, it's Rangeley trails. Then the middle, we have information about how do you explore Rio Blanco County, so that people extend their trip and go over to Rangeley and come over to Meeker. Another big thing that we're trying to push is trail etiquette. So that was another reason why we made this book, so that we can include stuff like that. So reprinting these kind of goes with it. I don't think we would ever have a combination map, just because they're kind of separate places. I mean, we could look into it, but I haven't really thought about that. I mean, this map is already huge as it is. So anyway, so we're looking to reprint and just requesting half of that amount. I have
And
another.
have you applied for any other grants or anything with that?
Not yet. This was our first stop. Do I have any more questions, or do you want me to go to the next project?
So the matching funds that you have listed on here, is that from the sales of those? Okay.
Yep, be from the chamber.
So you can go to the next one.
Okay, so the next project is helping us to play music on the speakers downtown. Currently, we play music on Fridays and on events, and people really seem to enjoy it. It helps people stay downtown a little longer, helps them when they're shopping and all that. So currently the process is we call your IT department and say, will you play music? Pick this playlist off my Apple playlist. So there's a lot of back and forth. Sometimes it doesn't always work so great. And then we go out and meet them, and we got the app. It works fine, but some Fridays, you know, your staff isn't here. So it's kind of disrupted, and it's not always consistent in playing it every Friday. So last year, Eric recommended this controller device as a way to make it simpler and put the chamber in control. Actually, anyone could be in control, but if we have this device, then we can just play from our office when we want. And so it was just an idea, something to look into, just to ease that process, also alleviate the labor from your staff and having to contact them all the time for something pretty simple as playing music. So if we didn't get the money to do that, we would just continue the way we're doing it. But that was just something I thought I'd throw in because Eric did recommend it as something that would be easier.
And can either one of those projects move forward if you don't get the entire amount of funding?
Honestly, I don't think I'd move forward with the controller, only because we have a small budget and we would just keep going as we are with asking your staff to help us play music. With the maps, that price was for a quantity of 2,000, so we could go ahead and just print 1,000. There is an efficiency in printing more for cost, but we do have the budget to print 1,000, and we could do that.
And I'm sorry, maybe I missed it. What was the need for needing new maps? Are you out of the other maps, or?
Almost, we have 300 left. So just kind of looking ahead.
Did you have a breakdown in here of how much each one was?
I was gonna ask the
I'm
same thing.
trying to find it. It's super little on ours. So do you have like how much it is for the control device?
Oh, yes.
And you may have it on there, but ours is like super tiny.
I know the submittal made the font super tiny. So it actually, I emailed my text too, but I don't know why that
Okay, that's
happened.
where I was trying to find, because I remember I'd seen it, but,
Yes.
you have that,
So the controller total was 1,300.
okay.
The controller is 1,000. There's an app for 100 per year, and then small parts were listed at 200. And that was just get directly from Sky and Eric.
But then,
The remaining would be the.
Yep, for the printing and delivery of the maps. Yep.
thank you.
I can resend that email with my text if you need it.
You know,
I don't
that's
know.
why I was trying to find it on here, and I'm like, where is it?
I don't know how that happened.
You can blow it up.
Did you find it on here, which one?
Well, no, I didn't find it.
No.
I'm just
Oh.
saying to make the.
Oh, yeah, you can, yeah, we can do that on here, but I couldn't find it. No, I had looked,
And
but I knew I'd seen it.
just to add too, like these were made in 2017 when we were starting to promote OHV travel. We had the rendezvous. OHV inquiry is still our number one inquiry at the visitor center. That is not stopping. So that's why it's important to get the right information out there to avoid conflicts with landowners and wildlife and speed limits and all that. So that's why reprinting these are important. Because even though there is a free map that we hand out, it's the Forest Service Summer Motor Vehicle Use Map, but it doesn't have a lot of the detail that's on here. So that's why these were pretty critical. And we mail these out, we send them out, so they're pretty important, we feel like.
And they're waterproof, aren't they?
Yep, waterproof and tearproof supposedly. And the county logo is on here, so we would still continue with that, promoting it as a joint effort.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're cruising.
Yeah,
We got our 3 o'clock.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
So it's the rec district is the,
Next one.
the next one?
Come on down.
Waiting on.
You're the next.
On for 140.
Yeah,
Do we need to wait?
we can wait too.
Can we?
Yeah.
Good, I think he's bringing the other.
Oh, I'd rather you just go, Rodney. No, I'm joking.
That'll be interesting.
We can wait. That'll give me time to actually get caught up on my,
On a pause.
yeah, we're gonna put this, go on a break.
Put it on.
All right, we will resume the workshops with the Eastern Rio Blanco Rec District.
Metropolitan Rec District. Yeah, but you never know what the M stands for.
Yeah.
Thank you, commissioners, for having us in today. We are pleased to be able to speak to you about our upcoming dehumidification project and any detail that you're interested in here. And I thought I'd start with just a brief kind of state of the rec district budget-wise. And you know, with the grant proposal, I thought it appropriate to just show some of what we call this our trend document. All the numbers, I know there's a lot of numbers on this spreadsheet that I handed out here, but really these are actual spending by the rec district over the last 5-6 years, with the highlighted 2022 column being our budgeted amount. And as you can see, like all of our property tax dependent entities locally, we've become increasingly aware, concerned with the decline, and so our board's done a really good job of trying to put in appropriate cost saving measures over time. We've reduced personnel in the last 3 years by about 20%, so that has a real felt impact in the community. But you can see in 2022 we budgeted a fairly significant deficit at almost $2.3 million, and a big chunk of that is this HVAC project. As the rec center here in Meeker is approaching 15 years in existence, we are experiencing some of the growing pains of a teenager building and some of the cost value things that I'll let Rod speak to how this HVAC project came about, but things like boilers and asphalt and ball field lights and just the infrastructure costs of maintaining a large entity in the community. And then over this time in this trend document, what you can't see behind the numbers is just the significant expansion of services, the additional programs, the parks that have been renovated, and all at the request of the community. And so we're trying to balance this, high community demand for programs and services with the declining revenue. And so $1 million HVAC project, what we're trying to prevent is that, responsible fund balance stewardship that our board has had with, not wanting to go out to the community for additional mill levy increase, to, not have to increase fees, to not have to cut staff and those things. So the more partnerships that we can leverage, the better off we'll be in the long term sustainability wise. So with that, I'll let Rodney speak to just some high level of how this HVAC project came about.
Yeah. So, of course, our rec center was built in 2007, 2008. That's when we occupied. So all of our equipment tends to come due now at all the same time. Once we get past this point, then you'll see the useful life kind of spread out a little bit. So this is actually a dehumidification unit. Its sole purpose is to remove humidity from the enclosed pool area of the facility. If you allow that humidity to stay out of control for too long, it's very detrimental to the structure of the building. It's very uncomfortable to participate in activities in there. So currently, our dehumidification unit, with all of the vendors and expertise that I've been able to bring into Meeker to look at it since I started 10 years ago, which was basically zero control over the environment. Sheetrock was getting saturated with moisture, and it literally would rain in there during the wintertime. What we found over this time is that the unit initially, they had some cost savings measures during construction, and the unit is undersized for the space that it's trying to dehumidify. So that being said, there was other cost savings measures that were taken as well, which all kind of compounded to create this problem that we have right now. We have corrected some of those issues, and that's allowed us to gain what I would call some control over it, but it's not a consistent control like you would prefer in a facility like this, because you can see the age happen nearly right before your eyes with rust and deterioration of surfaces. But currently, the unit itself is actually showing physical problems, the structure of it, and we just cannot get the unit no matter what we've tried, it's just too small to handle the amount of air that it's got to treat. So our proposal is to, in our engineering, the unit should be twice the size that it currently is, as far as the capacity for it to function properly. So that's where we're at currently. What that does is right now it's a daily, almost hourly adjustment on the system to try and maintain through the temperature swing of the day. So that being said, the engineering group, a vendor that we have that's working with us, contractors, has found a unit that will meet the need and then some for us. The project is probably one of the larger cost projects that we've had in the last 10 years. And this one is solely directed right at the center. It's not a park renovation or anything like that. This is what I would consider true maintenance operational cost of doing business with useful life on equipment. So,
What's the life expectancy of that?
generally speaking, it's 15 years. You can, maintenance, of course, good maintenance will actually help you there, but there's going to come a point where you're spending money. And
I've seen rec centers go as long as 20 or 30 with their large pool units, but they're always paying in those last 5-10 years in terms of repair and the upkeep. And we've invested a lot into maintaining this system and adding ductwork and dehumidification and exhaust over time, but it is just inadequate. It was engineered too small for the building from the get-go.
And out of the almost $2.3 million deficit, this is a little under $1 million of that.
Correct.
The rest going towards other projects, operations.
They are, and that's, as a result of, again, that revenue declines. We're just under projecting $3 million. We've been as high as 4, even as high as 5 during good years. And so, that has the revenue is part of that deficit equation. There's no other large non-scheduled projects as part of that. It's all kind of normal upkeep. We did do a large asphalt project this year at the rec center as well. Similar story, where it wasn't installed ideally from the get-go. And so we ended up being $200,000 toward that project. And so that's kind of what I wanted to mention, just in closure from us is our board has greenlit this project, so we are moving forward with it. We're under contract already with Trane to do this install. It's taken us all year to, not even receive delivery of the unit. So we'll be doing it in 2023. And so we're looking for cost offsets. Is this type of project, infrastructure project, is not competitive for some of our normal grant funding partners. And so hence being at your doorstep.
I had a question. You had a $40,000 figure. Was that for the pool only for the people, or was that for all people that come and do all your programs, or is that just for the pool use?
That is for the building. The 40,000 usages is for the rec center annually. Okay. Yeah, we tend to be somewhere right around that 40,000 number. And we estimate just, anecdotally that 70% of our use is, at the pool. It could be more on a weekend. It tends to be a whole lot more between birthday parties and out of town visitation.
And if that is not working properly, can you still keep can you keep the pool open, or do you have to shut that down?
So it is working, I would call it on a shoestring right now. I hate to say it that way, but we literally, I have it on a screen all day long, and I'm monitoring the humidity and the temperature in that space, and I make adjustments accordingly all day long. I adjust it before I go to bed at night and when I wake up as well. So it just can't. It's not. If I were to just let it go like it was prior to, I'm positive I would find the same thing that I found when I got there 10 years ago. We were pulling tacks out of the sheetrock and they were rusted. That's how wet the sheetrock was.
Knock on wood, we have not had to close as a result of it, but it's hazardous to run the environment that way to the visitors, to their staff. And so operating at 100% capacity all the time, and we're a, almost 365-day-a-year building. It's definitely precarious.
Have you tried to apply for any other grant funding or any other funding sources?
We have not on this project. As I said, a lot of times public park and rec entities will apply their portion of Colorado Trust Fund monies toward projects like this. Some of that money is tied up in our potential joint project with the town of Meeker for the final phase of Circle Park and the river enhancements. And so again, that would be a funding source that other entities have used for these kind of non-competitive grant worthy projects. And we've done a good job of not spending out of that, but we've committed those funds to that joint project.
I don't know if Moffett County, 'cause I know Moffett County residents use your guys' facility, just an idea to see if maybe their board does a grant like we do as well, to see if you reach out to them and maybe apply for something with them, because that you guys get a lot from Craig.
We do get a lot of visitation from Craig, yes.
Even I think Routt County, I know somebody that drives the senior bus that
comes down.
So, yeah,
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Do you think it would increase your visitors if it was a more comfortable environment?
I couldn't say that it would necessarily increase, but I do think word spreads. And when we have a closure, whether it's because of a accidental issue in the pool or, something like that, people talk. And when we have, an environment, that's really humid and a family's driven down from Craig and we're issuing refund passes, that's kind of the story behind not having to close. We've also had issues where it's either too hot or Rod's having to come in on a weekend, and, word travels fast with that. So we want to maintain a good reputation.
So you've had to do the refunds before?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like how often? Do just like a percentage of?
I wouldn't say that's a frequent issue, Jenny, because of the environment, but it is something that our staff, are kind of, if there's an issue with the unit, that we've had to do that in the past. And we're also accustomed to doing that with, customer service issue that comes up, or, we have a other type of closure. So.
Okay.
Good for Rod to have something to do on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So if this problem's fixed, what's he gonna do on the weekend?
We've got plenty of work to do.
As long as you keep
Kids.
Yeah. And we are really, I appreciate you bringing up that out of town usage. We are really proud of that. And we do try to accommodate those folks really well in terms of posting our hours and any kind of potential closure, to try to get word out really, really well, because nobody wants to drive, 50 miles and have a closed pool.
All right.
I have no
Any
other
further
questions.
questions?
thank you.
Thanks, you
All right.
guys.
Can I just ask one question? Because this is the first time we've been invited on this. Is what's the process for the county from here forward?
Can we go through that?
Yeah.
Go for it today.
So going through all grants, budgets, grant workshops, this week, next week, Monday following. Commissioners will tentatively determine kind of a plan of action what's going forward. However, the budget will not be final until that December 13th adoption. So once that budget is final, once they adopt the 2023 budget, at that point in time, anybody who was awarded, I will send out grant award letters. Anybody who did not receive anything, I would also contact them and let them know that they did not receive a grant for this next cycle. Attached with that will include instructions on how you can go about receiving reimbursement, because all of our grants are RFR based. You got to spend it in order to receive it, what that backup includes, and then of course the timeline of when you can start. It'll be a January to December grant. So we'll have all that information on it. But I will reach out to you guys as soon as that budget is adopted.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Take care.
Keep that guy busy.
Yeah.
I got your back, Rod.
Not a problem. I'm like.
Friends like him, you don't need enemies. See ya.
Town of Meeker's at 2, so we aren't too far off.
All right.
Mute this again.
Hi. Hello.
All right. Now we're going to resume with the town of Meeker. Miss Mandy.
Hey, that's us. Me. Me. Hello.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get off.
Yep. Go ahead.
I can't talk and walk and,
No, chew gum.
yeah,
Gotcha.
I have big issues with that. Would you just give us a brief overview of your project?
Sure. It's very brief because it's pretty straightforward. We would like to reinvigorate our paving program. It's been 5 years since we've done any street paving. The town of Meeker has maintained our streets through chip seal, crack seal, mill tailings, et cetera, over the past 5 years, and that has sustained nicely. But it is definitely time to get back into a regular schedule of paving. The recommendation from our Public Works Superintendent is to start on the west side of town with 11th Street and 12th Street. And that would be from Market Street all the way up to Hill Street to repave that section of both of those streets, including valley pans along Market Street.
And that goes along that, clear up to Rod Gerlach right?
It does not, actually, yeah.
Doesn't do that rough section.
It doesn't do the rough section, and that has been kind of a difficult topic for the town for decades. I have a file on my desk specifically for 11th to 12th Pinion Streets and that whole area. We've had multiple times had it studied to see what other improvements we can do for that area. And the engineering studies that we've had in 2011 and 2004 or 6, I don't remember, have all stated that any kind of impaction or anything that would be required to pave those streets would then cause residual damage to the shifting soils in that whole area, and would cost so much more money in consequential issues that it makes it not worth it to actually go in there and pave. So we do try to maintain that section as best we can without any impaction to the area.
Head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So other than the town's matching funds of 300, have you guys looked at any other grant opportunities?
Not yet. The plan is, regardless of additional funding with the county, the plan definitely is for an energy impact request for the Tier 1, which is up to $200,000. We think we could probably be competitive for a Tier 1 grant.
Right.
And that doesn't open until February 1st, which is why we haven't pursued anything yet.
And if we weren't able to fund the entire 500,
Right.
would you guys still plan on moving forward with a portion of the project or all of it?
Yes, absolutely. It needs to be done regardless, and it would have to be a situation where we look at pulling additional funds out of reserves, which is never ideal, but it can be done in order to get the project complete, or potentially moving up to a Tier 2 request for the energy impact grant application, which we think we might be a little bit less competitive in that, but it might be worth an ask.
Okay. And you're planning on doing this next year, correct?
Next summer. Timeframe is an RFP sometime in February, with a contract probably March, April, and construction in June, July.
All right. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions on it. You answered my one.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. It's a pretty direct project. There's not a lot of, ifs, ands, or buts about it.
So is your plan going forward is to start working back this way, or?
I don't believe that we'll be looking at, 11th and 12th this year and, 9th and 10th this year, et cetera. I did bring, the last time we paved was 2018, and that was 6th Street, 8th Street. So some of the streets on a previous schedule have been maintained more regularly than others. And then that's not taking into consideration, 2017 was 7th and 9th Street, and in 2015, it was 3rd, 5th, Cedar, and Pine. So it's been several places right in the heart of downtown, kind of. So we're not looking at Sanderson or Sage Hills as well. So taking those into consideration, I think we would have to look at a broader schedule for paving altogether than just as easy as moving west to east.
Yeah.
And there's no other real critical areas other than.
Yeah, and I think that's what the focus is starting here, is getting some of the critical areas taken care of first.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Yeah, I'll be back at 3.
Do you want to just stay?
I was gonna just hang out for a while, see what's going on at the
You
county.
can get a comfy chair over here next.
Come sit by you.
Sit by me.
Put your feet up on.
Got any popcorn? I'll just watch the show.
We can get you some.
I have wasabi peas.
I know.
I have peach.
Unfortunately, I've got a pile of stuff on my desk. I can probably get through a few things before 3 o'clock, but.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Which one?
stand around this thing.
Look at you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that?
Thanks.
You've been here before. Yeah. Okay, whichever side. We'll do one district on one side, on the other side. So thank you guys very much for coming.
But we are unified.
We are. That we are. Vicki, do you need a copy of the stuff I gave them? Here. I'll give it to you. It's nothing like, earth shattering, just so that. Perfect. Okay. One first. Need a heater.
Oh, cold? I know, I saw Jen put on her coat. I think it feels good.
I like it.
Yeah.
Check when we're doing it. Clean test update next 25th at 10 o'clock. Jane Turnberg is going to be talking about her weed and pest update, but there's also going to be, the guy from
Moffett County that's, done some mosquito spraying.
mosquito spraying. So both pest districts have asked to attend, and I don't know if that's something that you guys might want to have somebody there. I think, Vicki Saybaugh's not in yours.
Yes, she is.
Is she? Okay, Vicki was gonna reach out to you to see if you wanted to come, but,
Terry, Vince Wilvick is planning on being here
okay.
that day. Because 4M says that we don't do a larvicide program, but we hand out larvicide briquettes and around the dam. Not the last 2 years, because larvicide's like 5 times more than regular spray. But we have, sprayed or larvicided, around the sloughs around the dam for 2 or 3 years. So we spent a bulk of our money until we didn't have any the last 2 years.
So, and I don't know what all that will impact.
And we've used him because Coulter couldn't do it.
Right.
His nozzles aren't big enough. So we're familiar with him, and I can't think of his name. Adams?
No, the guy from Craig.
I can tell you.
Schroeder is his last name. Is it Jeremy? Schroeder? I'm kind of.
Unfortunately, I'm in Denver that day.
Okay.
So whatever. But I think the Camp Creek District was gonna be there in the Lower White River District.
Yeah, and I think Benny is coming too, maybe. He's the one that originally.
Yes.
But just want to make sure you guys were aware of that from the conservation.
Yes, thank you, because we are contributing some dollars there for next year as well. Okay. To Jane's weed program anyway, I think.
All right. We'll start with the bigger of the two. Okay. Floor's yours.
Okay, so just introducing ourselves, Callie Hendrickson was the executive director of the Douglas Creek and White River Conservation Districts.
I'm Chris Collins. I'm a local rancher at Flat Creek. I'm also a board member of the White River Conservation District.
I'm Rosalie Coombs. I'm also a member of the Douglas Creek Conservation District.
So the cool thing is we get to work together so much because it is probably one of the more unifying groups from one end of the county to the other. So it's been pretty fun for the last 12 years, as a matter of fact. So.
And it coincides with the other boards that I'm on. I'm on the Pest District and the Lake Water Conservancy District. And so it goes really hand in hand.
So you guys have our application in front of you, I would assume. Chris was gonna just do a quick rundown, a hit on the summary of what you and the citizens of Rio Blanco County would get for your $75,000. And when I say $75,000, that's between both districts. And just as a reminder, and those of you that are new may not know the way the districts have worked because of the way our funding is, the money that we've got and the mill levy too. The White River pays 90% of all of our operating costs, and Douglas Creek just pays 10%. So we have been running most of our grants because, somebody wants only one entity to write a check to, so we run most of our funds through the White River District. But when there's situations that the money will pay out specifically to your landowners, then we move the money goes through the Douglas Creek District too. So we do balancing there. But many years ago, my understanding was that the shoe was on the other foot. The other district paid most of the money. So it's been many years ago, but they've worked together for a long time. So I'm gonna let Chris run with it.
So, well, I appreciate the commissioners to hearing our grant request. I mean, you know, it's, I believe that, you know, I'm a board member, I'm a rancher. Like Rosalie, I'm on quite a few other boards, representing the residents of Rio Blanco County. But specific to the conservation districts, I mean, I think we have a tremendous benefit. You know, probably first and foremost, I think that the three of you are well aware of is the county land use plan. It's a joint effort between the Rio Blanco County and also the conservation district. It directs a lot of the policy, and it's important for all the residents in the county. That was just kind of updated, I believe, this last year or this year, and so it looks like that's been updated with everyone's input. And I think it's important that we have all of our inputs. Yours, ours, mine, anyone, everyone's. So I think we've worked well with the county on that. So secondly, we're really active in the rangeland health programs. I mean, first and foremost, that comes up to my mind is the Wild Horse Gather. That was very successful here recently. I mean, it's I don't want to talk that one to death, but it was very successful. And it helped, a lot of the grazing permittees, recreational users, hunters and hikers, but also private landowners, because that was something that was a problem. And I believe that, the conservation district, and namely Cali and, a few other board members that are really involved in it. I mean, they took quite a bit of the lead on that. And I think they did a wonderful job for all of us. Through rangeland health, I think that, we've also are starting to see fruits of our labor with these coordinated resource management plans, which our local ranchers or entities, can do range improvements with a multitude of organizations and entities, from government to federal government to state government to local government to different foundations, i.e. Mule Deer Foundation and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. But those efforts are really looking at improving the range habitat and the future vitality of the range going forward in a long-term forward-looking sense. So we've the districts have applied for grants, and we've got one big grant, and it looks like we're going to start funding some water projects and also some range improvements, specifically like PJ and sagebrush removal. So hopefully long-term benefits to the community. And so we're highly, and I know I'm not touching on everything, but I'm just kind of high level some of the stuff we work on. But we also are working with in range, we're working with a local range monitoring company that's helping us with the wild horse issue, but also mainly with the wild horse issue, but also looking at possible range spraying and stuff like that. And that's a cooperating agreement with the local BLM office. So I mean, there's another. I feel it's important that we're involving everyone, and we're I think with the districts, I mean, we're able to pull in different groups to work together. So another thing, moving on, another high priority or what we are involved in is the water issues. Commissioner Love, I know that you're well aware of the, you've attended some of the White River Integrated Water Initiative meetings as a county rep, that locally led group. Anyone can come and go, but the people in this county came to the district feeling that the need to do a water plan or water initiative without having someone from the outside come in. And through that, you know, process, you know, we're looking at doing some studies, that will help with, you know, the health of the river, you know, irrigators, but I believe that we'll talk about a little bit later, but also some upland management activities, going from the entire spectrum of the county. So, I mean, I think it's really a feather in our cap that, you know, we put together a 16-person panel that represents everyone from fishermen to the county, to oil and gas, to ranchers, to the towns. Yep. And I went through that water. I mean, water is a big passion of mine. Everyone knows that. But, you know, I also wanted to point out, you know, what the district, you know, Rosalie is a board member of the Rio Blanco Water Conservancy, which is a big thing for the western half of the county.
The influence is here,
yeah,
east, the whole county.
it's a big deal for the county, I believe. But also, you know, Callie and I are both board members or representatives on the Yampa White Green Basin Roundtable, along with Jenny. So I think, you know, we're out there representing our county and our constituents, or our land, our neighbors, and or your, you know, our neighbors, and you know, it's we're out there, you know, doing what we can to help everyone and influence, you know, some of the grassroots policy as best we can. So, you know, we also just finished up, don't want to talk about too much, but the algae group, you know, the algae study, I'm going to lean on anyone else to talk about that rather than myself right now, because I didn't participate too heavily with that. But I mean, it was a project that, you know, the citizens of this county felt it was important to investigate, and you know, and we finished that investigation, and you know, once again, you know, the conservation district stepped up and is representing the citizens of the county, or the landowners and stuff like that. So, also highly involved in, you know, wildlife issues. You know, we present and are a cooperating agency on the 10J wolf ruling, and we also present and speak to Colorado Parks and Wildlife issues with the wolves and stuff like that. You know, the wolves are a big deal here last couple of weeks. It's on everyone's forefront. I mean, we're only 15 miles away. So it changes the way you look at things when you're looking out there at night.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, that's, you know, we represent the citizens, or try our best on the wolf issues. And, you know, I think most everyone in the county wants us to keep participating in that. So I'm trying to think what else I can speak to as far as what the districts are involved and how we represent. But it's really a great honor of mine to be on this Conservation District Board, because you know, it's important for myself to be on this board and help provide a voice for, you know, fellow residents and landowners, and, you know, sometimes people that just come through and like our county, you know, and how can we, you know, how can we give back to the county and continue the county be a viable destination for people to travel to and recreate and live and yeah. So I appreciate the three commissioners hearing me talk. I don't do it very often, but I appreciate it.
You did a good job. That's more than I heard you talk for a long time. I've known you a long time.
I know. So, thank you.
Anything you want to add?
No, it just hits on so many topics. It's mind-boggling. I'm really grateful for Kelly keeping everything in check and keeping us informed and all that, and how we can preserve the property rights and use all our resources for the owners in our county.
And I do want to, don't mean to keep talking, but I mean, a couple of the other things that, I mean, that aren't recognized, or sometimes people don't know what we do. We've gone out and gotten grants through different, like CWCB or, couple of, I can't remember, but, and it's been offered to, the landowners in the county for water improvements. We're looking at one next year for some subsidies for landowners to apply for like weed spraying, or
Pest
control, specifically, looking at ground squirrels and stuff like that. So, not everyone sees that, but, we're out trying to get, it's, might be a $20,000 grant or a $50,000 grant, but, through the two districts, making those resources available to landowners to help, to stay in business and also make their property productive and beautiful. So.
Do you want to touch on the Waltz deal since this is on YouTube?
What?
Walt Proctor's.
Yeah, just real quickly, so another piece of the Integrate Water Initiative is the education piece, so that we can help not only landowners but general public understand water measuring devices. And then we'll also continue to help them work on diversion structure assessments as well as improvements, some funding for that we've been able to secure. So we'll continue with that. One of the things is speaking into the money side of it. So on the back of the application, you've got the breakdown of all the places that we're getting money. So it's everything from the state to the federal level. We've even ventured finally into the nonprofit side of it, kind of, I guess I'd say quasi nonprofit, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And that money's coming everywhere from CPW to the National Fish and Wildlife Association or Services. They've pulled all that money, but we did get a successful grant for $200,000 for the next couple of years for some of our CRMPs. So you'll see that list of grants there. So far, we've been pretty successful with grants. That NIFWIF grant was that one I had to go through 3 times is, always the charm. We got it on the 3rd round. But it was the big one, and that was kind of our first venture out into the nonprofit side of things. But basically, I think if we look at that whole budget piece there, and I appreciated you guys, the way you had that broke down, the funds from the county is only 9% of the district's budget. So I think you get a pretty big bang for your buck. I will tell you that funding is absolutely critical. Without it, we don't have the base to keep our staff, to keep writing grants, to keep helping people on the land. That's the cycle that we go through. And that $75,000 is really, like I said, that makes us or breaks us. I will say, unfortunately, last year, we dipped heavily into our reserves, about $60,000 into our reserves last year, and that was with the county's assistance. The year before, it was only about 2,000. Right now, I have us at a break-even point for 23 with the county's funding, and if all of the grants come through as we have planned. There's some more that could come, and some of you know only too well how the grants work. That money, we get $600,000 grant, but you get 10% of that is all that you get for administration. And I do bill some of my time as well, or specific staff time to it in addition to that. But just speaking of the staff, so we're doing all of this with, there are 4 of us, but you could basically boil it down to only 2 staff. I'm full-time, I've got 2 part-time that equal 1. And then we have the conservation technician who is primarily works for NRCS. That's one of those things that's a question, how much do we spend? But NRCS pays 75% of that position. We were successful in getting a grant for the other 25%. They do most of their work for NRCS. But if you walk into our office, you see there isn't much in the way of staff for NRCS. And so our landowners are not getting served. unless we help them. So that's one of the things that we are working really hard to do, is try to work with entities, whether it be that one with the BLM, with the Forest Service. The district is in a fairly unique position because we can bring money in, whether it be from state, federal, local, nonprofit, business, or whatever, pool it into one fund and be able to accomplish something. And that is the niche that I think conservation does. And I think we're finding that niche finally to actually get things on the ground. So the CRMPs are our proof in the pudding, I think is how you say that at this point. It has taken us 3 years, but we got some projects on the ground this year, and we've got some big projects going on the ground next year, and it's pretty exciting to see that happen.
And I just want to chime in real quick. I mean, we have dipped in the last 2 years to the reserve fund. Prior, I truly believe that, we're doing the best that we can, but, with the county's assistance, we need the county's assistance. And I think some of the reason why we're dipping into some of this stuff is, we're going into, we're doing more projects on the ground. You're seeing a lot of projects throughout the county. So, I mean, we're shifting, we're still heavily involved in policy on the national, state, and local level. And I know that was a focus in the past. And I think we're, through those policy decisions that, the county and everyone's been a part of, we're starting to see, those projects on the ground. And, we just like anyone else, we have some growing pains, and we're learning as we go. It might take us 3 years to get a grant, but it's, that grant is finally here. So, hopefully we can establish that, and we don't have those growing pains, and we can, I just want to chime that in.
What I get really excited about too is, because of the research that has been done through the range monitoring, the algae study, potentially with water, those don't become just theories or what we all know but can't prove. We can prove, and then also then be able to bring in the dollars to then put it on the ground. And I think that's important. It's very valid, and it's very all-encompassing, the work that the district does.
And I think Lenny, I don't know if he's going to make it or not because he was preg checking cows today. So I was very impressed that he said, I will do my darndest to be there. But there's another one, and you'll see one of the things that I did hand out to you, I guess I should say, in the folder is the newsletter for this time that hasn't come off the press just yet. And the other one is a couple of letters of support. Those letters of support, one being from one of the participants for the CRMPs. The other two are speaking to something that's totally new. I think you guys we've kind of given you a little bit of heads up on it, but this one is a big one, a great big one, and an exciting one. We are, as of the 2nd, we're going to be holding a meeting for all the land or the water right holders, I guess you call it, on the Miller Creek ditch,
Highland Ditch, and the Oak Ridge Ditch.
And the Oak Ridge Ditch.
And Commissioner Gates, I know you know the issues on the Miller Creek Ditch, but some of the other issues, on some of the other ditches. But this group, it's a nonprofit group that helps fund these big type of projects. But it's really, it could be, a lot of unknowns. We're just starting this. But through this, we can modernize and improve the reliability of some of these big canal ditches that serve a lot of our constituents. I mean, whether they for ag, livestock, farming, livestock, guide outfitters, someone's vegetable garden, whatever, that could potentially be a big influencer to the 3 major ditches up here in the Meeker area, and hopefully we could you know, if we can demonstrate some of those, and we can fulfill some of those projects, you know, this group and other ditches in the area might be able to, you know, work together and improve some of the system reliability for ag. I'm a big ag guy.
Might be able to actually, they probably double their hay if they didn't have the ditch off for a month.
It would be nice, yes.
Yeah.
And all the seeking, talk about
Oh, yeah.
for conservation.
We used to live right below it, so yeah. We're cluttered by those. Oof.
I'm pretty excited about that one. So we did get we've got one grant. We believe we'll get a second one that will help us with that. The study to see how feasible that it really is. But then this group is very used to writing grants like the PL 566 through NRCS. And we're not talking small change here. We're talking up to $25 million is what those grants will pay for. So this is big. And this is one we didn't see coming, but here it is, and we're pretty excited about the possibility. So.
And I think I think that generated out of what they heard about the white, and it's with Colorado Ag Water Alliance, but they heard about us, you know, this area through the Water Initiative. Thank you. I can't speak acronyms, but the local water initiative, that's where they heard about us, the connection was made. So, I mean, some of those things are coming out of these locally led efforts that the district is part of.
Sure, the seat at the table makes a difference.
I would just say, what questions do you have?
I talked to Mark Etchart last week, I think, in depth about this, and I think what you guys do, for the most part, with the exception of one new topic, but everything else, I think you do an outstanding job on, and I think it's viable and a very important piece of that. But as special districts come to us, we just had one prior to you that they're facing almost a $2.3 million deficit. And being a special district, have you guys talked about going back to the voters about getting a mill levy increase to help be self-sustaining and self-sufficient? Because I don't think, and that's also in part why we had to move, why we felt it was important to move you towards a grant application versus how we've done it in the years past, is because you are a special taxing district, just like a lot of these other ones, and we didn't want to show favoritism towards one and not the others. And so I guess my overall question is have you thought about going back to the voters for a mill levy increase?
We did 3 years ago, and we lost by how many percentage? 2 votes. 2 votes.
The Douglas Creek District did. Here is the other situation, though. So by state statute, conservation districts can only request up to a half a mil. And so when we look at that, if both districts can clear up to a half a mil, it wouldn't even be the amount of money that you guys provide us at this point. So it wouldn't do us, I mean, every little bit helps, but it would probably cost us more to go through a mill levy than we would recover in about 5 years.
We spent over $20,000 for our mill levy.
So, and by state, and we've looked at that conversation about trying to go to the state and raise that limit. Unfortunately, we're 2 of the most active districts in the state, and it would be pretty much us carrying that list right now. I don't see a lot of other, there's a lot of them that would want to, but there's only 9 in the entire state that have no levies at all. So there's just not, and they don't even have, I don't know where they're at, whether they're close to the half mil or not. So we have had that conversation long and hard to answer your question, Ty. We keep looking at that. Where do we get sustainable? Where do we not have to rely on grants? And I will tell you, I never dreamed I would be a grant writer. That is not where I want to be. And I will tell you, I really think my strengths are much more in the policy and representing issues than sitting behind the desk writing grants. But in order to be able to do that, we're going to have to write grants. So we got to get enough grants going in order to get funding going to get somebody to write grants so that I can get back to doing policy.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of conversations. We are having heavy duty conversations. Ever since we lost that big chunk of our mill levy, which was in 16, by the way, when we took an 85% cut. But
Yeah. So going through your reserves as much as you have been, and I understand you're trying to have a flat budget this year, but I mean, if you take a rolling average of the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, how long do you see your reserve fund lasting? And then I guess the next step of that is after that, then what's the plan?
you know, I couldn't tell you exactly how many years we've got. It's really going to depend on county funding, whether we get that or not, and the success of grants. But if we, and I don't know what that rolling average would be. I went back these last 2 years. I didn't go back any further than that.
Right.
But I will, ever since the 16, when we took the 85% budget cut, which thankfully we had been putting money away, or we would not have had those reserves to be pulling on right now. So Douglas Creek, I don't even know, your reserves are pretty slim. Thankfully, White River has got more there, but you know, the bottom line is, it's a matter of service to the landowners. If we don't have the funding and we can't continue, the landowners don't get that support. And I guess I would say then the natural resource work that we do, a lot of it would fall back on the county and would probably cost you much more than what you're paying us today.
Mm-hmm.
That we have the MOU with the county, that we take the lead on, let's see, I looked at this, so on forest health, on livestock and horses. Those are the three that we have our MOU with you guys to take the lead on. Your lead is on weeds, oil and gas, travel, wildlife, and wildfire. And we both work on ESA, water, vegetation treatments, economics, customs and cultures, and the special designation areas. We have been carrying a lot, not all of it, but a lot of the weight on the ESAs, on the water, on the economics. So without it, it's going to cost you more.
Yeah.
So I know it's a tough call. I know you don't have a lot of funds. I mean, I get that. I understand that.
Well, my biggest concern, I guess, is seeing the deficit that another special district's in right now. I can see more and more special districts coming to us. And even this year, like, our funds are very, very limited as to what we can even grant out, let alone try to spread that out over other districts. So I'm just trying to think ahead, you know, for years to come, where, you know, just to try to be thinking about that and how can we get ahead of that train?
That's why we're writing grants.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But is that where my expertise should be spent? It's where we're having to right now.
Yeah.
I think for your property owners, if we're not involved, then we would lose a lot of our rights from other entities, from possible government entities, if we were not representing our property owners with land rights, water rights, whatever rights, and in coordination with our federal lands, BLM and forestry. I mean, there would be such a loss.
I agree. And I think what you guys do is very important. And that's why I'm just trying to think that far ahead as, you know, to what, because once your reserves are out, then what? You know, or the 75,000 is not going to go very far.
And I totally agree. I mean, I'm not envious of any of your jobs right now. But you know, I mean, through the grants, I mean, you know, it's the name of the game. I mean, if we're coming to you now in a grant position, but, you know, before it was a little different. But, you know, just an example, you know, without a grant with a group, I don't know what they're called now, but it was with Ducks Unlimited / Intermountain West Joint Ventures, which is a Water 4 program. Without that grant, we would not be able to fund our district, our DCT position, which is the joint NRCS district position. So, I mean, we are actively looking for ways, you know, to fill a position, and we think it could be a long-term that one, we believe it could morph into a long-term funding situation, with some of the projects. So, don't want to come, we would love to be sustainable. The reality is we're not, just like a lot of people in a lot of groups. But we are, pretty darn close. And, like Rosalie said, and Callie did, without us being out there, some of these projects probably would not be getting done, or someone else that, you guys may not like might be involved in spearheading some of these efforts that might not be, aligned with the values of the citizens here.
You guys have any questions?
Appreciate what you do.
Probably with this, all of them, I should say, of our grants that we currently give out are all RFR based. And so I know we request for reimbursement based. And so I know we kind of talked about this last year. Would you say that most of the funding of the 75,000 goes towards wages and salaries? Or would you say they're more for different costs?
We just pull it out of the, in and out of the general fund.
Right.
But I would say that it probably is mostly staff.
Okay.
Because if we don't have the staff to cover, we've got grants that are covering the actions, this other stuff we're doing.
Okay.
This is what covers the staff.
Okay.
And that 10% administration fee off of grants does not pay staff.
I know.
So I would say, yes, it is staff.
Okay. So we could come up with a request for reimbursement.
Yes, and request for reimbursement does work for us because we have that reserve.
Perfect.
So that's what we've been doing, for 2 years now, it's been requested.
Yeah, it'll just be a little bit more detailed instead of just sending like a letter that shows, this is based on the MOU, this is what we did. We'd ask for request for, this grant of 75,000 would go to cover, we'll just say salaries, right, for that. And so you would just send me backup of that quarterly, monthly, whatever it is, and then we would reimburse you for that, just so it's more specific in what we're actually funding. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. And I couldn't get that broke down more specific. But again, because of partnerships, such as NRCS, we don't have the overhead that most people do. We don't pay the rent. We do pay everything else. I guess rent and utilities. But we have to do our own phone. We have to do our own computers and all that because of the work we do.
Okay. Right. Yep.
So are we going to jump to the other one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want me to pull just Ty, and that way you get that information? And
Whatever works.
okay, do that.
All right. Sorry, I've got to leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are the folks go?
Where is?
We're gonna go in this conference room back here.
Okay.
Okay, and then you had the other grant.
Right. So this is the forestry position, and we applied for that separately so that it's not, and I will say we are, the other one is the priority. This one, as we've talked about a lot, I know you guys talked about a lot for 2 weeks. I guess I would just ask, really, I'm really sensing some hesitancy on this, and I really would like to understand what why the hesitancy on this, because we've got, it came through the initiative, that is a whole community group that's indicated this is an important piece. And I'll let you talk about it. I know Chris hasn't been a part of the conversation the last 2 weeks, but he can speak certainly from where the initiative came from and why it's important to them.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but yeah. So the forestry position that the grant we're applying for is for a forest coordinator or forestry position, and how this all came about is through the White River Integrated Water Initiative, which I'm heavily involved in. I think we're both part of the Planning Action Committee, or three of us in this room are part of the Planning Action Committee. So through this community grassroots initiative, you know, we've developed, or we've come up with several goals, but two high priorities would be, you know, a hydrology, or a water supply study or / return flow study in the Middle Reach, which is separate from what we're talking about, but what has had broad-based support from the citizens and from this group is, you know, we're calling it a forestry position, but it's more upland vegetation, because it's going to go from the forest, you know, from the headwaters to the county line, and you know, through the PAC and through the citizens. You know, this is the forest and our upland is our aquifer. It is, you know, we don't have, you know, the Mississippi River flowing through our county. We don't have the Ogallala aquifer below us. So what snows up there and stays up there supplies water for us to irrigate, drink, water our yards, grow vegetables, whatever. And the fear, you know, through the water initiative, the fear is if we don't have a happy, healthy forest, and that I'm not talking about, the entire spectrum of things, you know, private ground versus the public ground. If we don't have that happy, healthy forest and it burns and it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, you know, what is that going to do with our water resources? What's it going to do with our aquifer? And our aquifer is that snowpack. So that's why the value of the forestry position is going to be huge, because you know, Callie can't coordinate it because she has plenty of other things to do. We do have a watershed, a coordinator for the water initiative, but that is specific to the water initiative and facilitating that. So we really need to find someone that can cross, you know, boundaries from the county, the Rio Blanco County, private landowners, BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service, United States Forest Service, Colorado State Forest Service, BLM. So this is really a position that is going to be coordinating with a lot of different entities, and you know, it's going to be huge, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. This is a long-term goal and process, and we need some help getting so it becomes more of a full-time, self-funded position. That's why we're coming to you guys with you know, the small grant application to help fund that. And you know, I believe you guys talked to Curtis Keach with the Forest Service. You know, he and Callie and he and the PAC have all been working towards, you know, he has a lot of ideas and a lot of projects, but one of the most critical things that I've taken away from listening to Curtis speak is if he has a tough time justifying and getting stuff done at his level or getting money to do projects without locally led people contributing and helping push and drive this process. So he needs that position to help him push for more money and so on and so forth. And I think that falls back onto what we talked about, you know, what we've been talking about overall in the general fund is this is what the conservation district does for you guys. I mean, and without some of this stuff, you know, it takes us, it takes people, it takes you all to push and push and push, and then maybe eventually we'll start seeing some of these projects come to fruition. So I don't know if that answered your questions, or if I made it more confusing, or what.
I have one real quick question. You said that you would like to have this be able to become a full-time self-funded. How would that take place? I mean, how does this position set up that for future?
It's through the partnerships. I mean, it'll always have to be, I mean, they're not going to go out and make money to pay their salaries. It will be through the partnerships with the U.S. Forest Service and the State Forest Service. The National Forest Foundation is a new one that I had learned of. And you know, I understand money is tight in this council. I mean, I understand that very well. the value of the county, I don't care if it's 5, 10, or 15,000. If you can contribute a minimum amount of money, it makes it so much easier to get those state and federal grants from those people that write grants all the time. I think typically will back that up. I mean, it needs to show the local support. Curtis has said at the meeting, I don't care if it's $1 kind of thing. I said, yeah, but Curtis, you're not the one that's trying to raise the money. But, and the letter of support goes a huge long ways, because again, we couldn't even apply for that grant without that letter of support. So that's why that was so critical. The next step is putting a little bit of money behind it, and it doesn't have to be a lot.
I guess, and you asked the question, where's the hesitancy? Mm-hmm. So the hesitancy, at least on my part, I know Ty voiced his yesterday with that private landowner kind of situation where they knew what they were getting into, so on and so forth. For me, I am looking at it from the lens of, I've been a grant writer, and so I get it. My hesitancy is that you guys have such a short period of time to have a turnaround of building these relationships with all these different entities. And what buy-in do all of the rest of these agencies have and or are going to contribute, if they are going to contribute to this, to making sure that this position is successful? Because as we all know, with new positions, that it's a grant position, to get it off the ground running takes at least a year. I mean,
no question. Absolutely.
So do you already have somebody in mind that you know is going to be able to take this job description and run with it? And that way we're not waiting for that whole year and really, I guess, and I don't want to say waste, but it happens.
It takes a while.
It does. So do you already have somebody? And if so, does that person realize, what we're looking at, and really, do they already have these relationships with everybody?
Excellent questions. I mean, thank you. Now I understand. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the one question, do we have someone in mind? No. Okay. To answer the question about the other agencies' commitments, we're all hearing the huge amount of money, that's coming. Okay, we're all hearing about that. And forestry is a priority. Everything from NRCS, State Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, BLM even, and everybody else. If it's talking about something about fire, there's a ton of money coming. If you don't have shovel-ready projects, you're getting passed right over. And we're being told from both state and federal agencies that 2 years from now is when it will hit the rural part of Colorado. Right now, the big money's coming to the Front Range for forestry, because that's the life threatening. But our chances with money is big within the next, another year or two down the road. 24 is the number I'm hearing from NRCS, for example. I will tell you from, so the people I talked to, Curtis, and then his boss, Scott Fitzgerald, I can never remember what the name is, there's commitment. They know they need help, but they can't get it done on their own, period. They cannot get it done on their own. They got to have that local support. They got to have partners and so forth. State Forest Service. So Cami works out of Grand Junction, and I don't know everybody's titles in these entities because I haven't worked with State Forest Service very much in the past. Where we got the building and the buy-in from her boss, kind of a regional guy, is through the natural resource tour that we did last summer. He came, were you on that? I don't know if you were.
I don't think so.
Anybody was. He came and he got excited in seeing what he saw of the local community that wanted to do something. Then we invited him back to the PAC and initiative folks. He went to bat to try to get us additional $25,000 or quarter, I guess he said 25% as a position. And he said, right now, he said, I can't give you that right now for this grant to do as a match. this is a state forest service grant, but he was coming from another pot. But he said, don't write it off. It's coming, kind of thing. He's extremely dedicated to it. So that's State Forest Service. National Forest Foundation, we talked to them. It was a weird way that I got connected with them, but they want to, and they're the ones that apparently typically get money from U.S. Forest Service and contract it out. They're a middleman kind of a deal. I don't know how they call them, foundation. Right now, they didn't have the staff for our area. They have a White River National Forest dedicated person, but guess where they're spending their time? So they said, we will help you in any way we can, but we do not have the staff for your area. So everybody, the way, I guess, basically based on working with BLM, again, this is all, we're learning, muddling our way through this. But when we can pull those pieces and a little bit of money from everybody, we can get something done.
So it's more that you're being proactive instead of reactive, is what I'm hearing.
Thank you. Yes, that's
Because
what
you
we're
know
trying
that
to
the
do.
funding's coming, but to get it up and running, we've got to start now so that when that funding starts in 2 years, then you can say, this is what we've accomplished at this point.
We're ready to go.
Here's the project. Give us the money and we'll get the saws on the ground. Okay. Kind of thing. That's the critical piece. So did I miss anything else?
No, you answered every question. Thank you.
So the 15,000, would that just be for 2023, or would that 15,000 go to help for, because I think you said some of these were like a 2 or 3 year grant, right? So would you come, would you be coming back next year for another 15? How did that look, I guess, just so that.
And the grant is due tomorrow. So, we are trying to get our, do we go for the gusto and write it as a 5-year grant to State Forest Service? Okay, not here, State Forest Service. So it'll either be a 3 or a 5-year grant application. We may back it off to 3, but I'm being told go for it because they do have a piece in there. Can it be reduced? We could say, yep, we could come back to 3 if we had to.
Right.
So we're probably going to go for the 5. To answer your question from the county, I would be, I guess, some of that would be a little bit of question, and a great question now that makes me think a little bit. Will your money have an end date on it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we get into with grants, has an end date on it.
Yeah.
If
The grants would be for our county fiscal year, so January through December. If they were to carry over, you would have to come in front of the board and ask for that to be carried over. However, one board cannot subject future boards to decisions. So just know, just because it was carried over in a budget, it could be taken away, you know what I mean, with new boards or whatever else. It's not, if they put it in the budget for 23, it'll be in the budget for 23.
Okay.
However, carry over into multiple years after that, subject to appropriation.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. I would say I applied with that, the intent, it would be this year and be back if we need it in the future. Now, I say if we need it because I'm trying to get a meeting with the NRCS next level up. As he said at a watershed meeting, forestry is a high priority for us, but they've shut us down on staffing like we've got our district technician position. That's what I thought we could do initially, is get 75% NRCS funding. But then they are really guided by NRCS guidelines, and I have to kind of turn them over to them. We're not willing to turn this person over to NRCS. And I will tell you, we had a State Forest Service would be willing, and so I wish Ty was here to hear this, because State Forest Service would be willing to put another 25% into the position if it worked for them. And if the position was funded, they were employed by the State Forest Service instead of through the Conservation District.
That was going to be one of my questions. You guys actually do the hiring.
We would do the hiring, and therefore we could do the firing if it wasn't the right person.
Right. Okay.
Was my question to State Forest Service. If we don't like the person, will you get rid of them? Probably not. Well, then we don't want to do that.
Right.
And the other piece was, could we our forestry coalition, the initiative, have some guidance over what the person was doing. Not so much. Okay, we don't want to do that. The big kicker was, would this person be dedicated to the White River Valley? Or would they get pulled to other parts of the state? And they said, that we can't guarantee you. I said, therefore, and they said, you would be better off to hire them through you. So that just means we lose that 25%. That would have been an easy 25%. But again, back to the private land private property rights or whatever, we have control of this person. We're not going to let go of this person. I mean, control. I do not understand the private property concern. I think our district has proven that we are very private property proactive, or
It's in the water.
Very supportive of private property, right?
And I think the concern was for us when we first heard this is that what if you go away? Or what if
You've
we
got
get,
doors.
but what I'm just saying, and we get somebody different in here for something and they have a whole different
We want to keep up.
take on it, and that's our concern is like, I don't have any problem with you guys. You guys are amazing. I love what you do. And I've just been totally, it's blown me away of how much you guys really do together. And not just in yours, but, region-wide here, I mean,
And I
countywide.
think historically as well,
Right.
through the years, you've started
And
to
that's
see
what I'm
that
saying, not
change.
her, but I'm saying, what if Callie, maybe she gets a job offer she can't refuse and she goes up the chain and we get somebody else, and that's where we were kind of like, ooh,
So I would, thank you for that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. If I got hit by a train tomorrow,
that's fine.
there's no trains in.
There's no trains here.
Pretty good. I answer to these boards. There's 10 local people that I answer
Okay.
to. I don't drive this ship. I talk a lot, but I don't drive the ship. So
Okay.
these are who I answer to. And
Okay.
you've seen that land use plan. I mean, you see the private property piece in there. You see the private property issue in the initiative conversation. That's not Cali.
Okay.
That's these boards and the local people that are driving that. I mean, every one of them, because our conservation districts are nothing but about locally led conservation.
Okay.
So I would like to put any concern to rest there. If I was to go away tomorrow. You guys
I mean, the
okay?
first stop would be the water initiative and the planning action committee. I mean, as far as, making sure that the forestry position stayed here and answered to the needs of the community. But, if that failed, that's overseen by two boards, the Douglas Creek and the White River board. So, I mean, I really think there's some duplicity there as far as making sure that this person, whoever it is a member of the community and the interests of the community are forefront.
And I went and going back and listening to the conversation at the meetings I missed. There was something about some bills that had been passed that were talking about making landowners do certain things with their trees and so forth. I don't know anything about that. I'm not aware of that bill. What I do see, what I guess I've always believed, if we need to take control of our own destiny. And so by working with people and if we have to hold their hands, or if we just have to give them a little bit of encouragement to apply, or here's how you can do this or whatever. And I mean, in talking to some of the landowners up there, it's so overwhelming. Look out there in that forest. What do we even begin to do? If they can get help getting a plan to help them move forward, we're taking our own destiny in our own hands and saying, we will take care of our own. Thank you very much, state. We can back everybody off just a little bit. I mean, that's how we're doing the whole initiative on the water stuff. We take control of it. We know what we're doing. We all agree to it. Thank you much. We don't need your help.
And I think that's where, that Ty and I had that conversation, because the state is trying to create codes and trying to tell us what we are going to do in our communities. And I guess that's where I was like, whoa, I need to make sure that this person that we're looking at is a local person, is going to stand up for our landowners. That's where I was coming from, because as you all know, you know, the state just constantly wants to dictate to us, and it doesn't fit our rural area. It does the Big Ten, leave it over there. Let us do what we need to do in our areas. So that was where, Stephen, some of my concern, just hearing that conversation happening in some meetings that I was part of.
And something else I want you guys to make sure is that the Farm Bill is out. I need you guys to go through that. You need to see if there's anything in there that is going to negatively affect our areas. Read it and, you know, make comments on those, or get to us and we can make comments. But that Bennett Farm Bill is out there, and there's some things that are so really.
I would tell you, I would love to do that. I have enough deadlines on grants right now. I don't know that I can do that.
Anybody, like.
I mean, that's where my brain should be, there's no question about it.
Absolutely. But I'm just saying that this is important, and this is what, you know, she's talking about too, is they're coming down, and so we really gotta pay attention to what they're doing out and about, because there's some things on that are just like, wow.
We watch grants, when we get grants, I mean, you can apply for grants and not know what you're gonna get, but you always get a contract, right? You read the fine print in that contract. If we think there's anything in there that's gonna say they can dictate something like that, we ain't signing no contract.
Right.
And with that in mind, I don't think there's any danger that this position would help or hinder what's gonna come down anyway.
Okay. That helps a lot. Thanks.
And I did happen to watch the video from the other day, and I do understand and appreciate your concerns. And talking with Curtis, the reason why we're looking at the private land right now is that is the easiest way to start affecting change, and for us, but also for Curtis, and also the Colorado State Forest. I mean, there's agreements, the Good Neighbor Agreement, but if Forrest can say he's working on a private property, Forest Service property boundary, he's going to get more funding and more direction to help that out, because they don't want to ruin someone else's property. So that's where the focus is. And I can understand where it looked like we're just going to hire someone, a Colorado State Forest employee, and it's just going to be dictating what's going to happen on private ground. But that is the lowest hanging fruit, and this is the easiest. It is, with discussions, it's the easiest way for us to start affecting this change.
Okay. Thank you.
I know we're way over our time.
You're fine.
But thank you for the conversation, for telling us what your real concerns were, because that. Okay, yeah. Holler, and all of you know, you can always call me. I don't care what, you have my cell phone, I hope. Call me anytime. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, you guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you all for your time.
You bet.
Listening to us.
Wait just a minute until I get back, or do you want to move on?
What time is she up at 3:30?
Yes, but we could,
Yeah, so we could just.
forward to whatever you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, thanks, you guys.
The extension office, so they're going to be under the departments within. We probably better
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, let's wait. Okay, you're on.
Well, there's my budget. I guess I don't know if you have questions or where you want to start with this.
Yeah, so this is the CSU extension budget. We'll go over the extension program activities. They are kept separate because the extension program activities have its own revenue generation from it, from the dues from the kiddos, and it's supposed to be spent on specific items. And that's a CSU extension kind of policy. So those funds are kept 100% separate from all other general funds. They roll over from year to year. And so it's just a different bucket that Linda can kind of pull from to pay for some items. But they are kept separate, so that's why they're not merged together in the CSU extension budget. So they are two separate budgets.
So that's a money in, money out account. So we put money in there from our 4-H dues, anything that we take in money. So we, most of it comes from 4-H dues. Every once in a while we sell a cup or something that's not, it's not big money from anything, but the fundraising that 4-H does goes to the clubs and stuff. So this is mostly from 4-H dues. We also have to pay 4-H dues out of there. A portion of the 4-H dues goes to the state. So that account is getting cut substantially this year because it was, for several years, it was sitting right at about $11,000 or $12,000, and we haven't been supporting that. So that's getting cut substantially. So the budget that is being proposed is going to just about cover manuals that we buy every year and what we pay CSU. So that means if that's where that budget stays, which I realize it is a separate account, we're gonna have to cut services to our 4-H kids, which is really sad. But, when we do programming for the kids, or we buy stuff for programming, that's where we spend that money. So I'm not sure where we're gonna get money. We're gonna have to charge kids for programming, what's gonna happen. And I hate to do that. One of the things we're doing to have more income from that is we are raising our fees for 4-H members. At the same time, we're having an open enrollment discount. So if they enroll before, I think this is November 15th, we're having a discount. So we're trying to get kids to enroll early. So it's like $35. If they wait until later, then it's going to be $45. Right now it's $40. But we're encouraging early open enroll. It's not really early, but enrollment starts in October. This is Tanya's area, October 1, I think it is. And we really want kids to enroll early and get started in the programming early, so we're not running behind the clock all year. Our deadline has been February 1, and some kids just wait till February 1, but we're really running behind the clock. And so we're trying to get people to enroll early, but we had to increase our membership dues, which I hate doing. We do have a mechanism. I never want a kid to not be in 4-H due to money. And sometimes we have a new family that comes to town and they have 5 kids. That starts to get expensive. So we do have a mechanism for scholarships that can be paid out of 4-H council. I don't want people taking advantage of that, but I mean, if we have, like I said, I don't ever want a kid to not be able to be in 4-H because of, financial considerations. So we will look at each case individually on that. But, when you have a lot of kids, it starts to run into some money. So,
So on your CSU extension budget, do you want to kind of go over what your $7,000 are for purchase services?
Okay, so when we have somebody that comes to downtown to do a workshop to teach the kids something, and they travel here for that, that goes into purchase services. When we buy materials for a class that we're teaching something for them, that comes out of purchase services. Any materials for a workshop, we just went down to do well, that one happened to be on a grant, but when we have any kind of a workshop or materials that they need for unique quality assurance, I'm thinking of the different workshops we put on for record book training, for drawing a complete blank here, all of the different workshops that we do for training. We do safety training, anything like that. Any of the training workshops that we have to buy materials for, or travel. Well, travel comes out of the but anything that that's not covered under what, like I said, the record books are covered under their dues. So, but anything that's covered under there's programming expenses, so that comes out of the other one. You have to ask me that, don't you? I should have brought the receipt book and I can show you all the things we charge to purchase services. But
Do you attend any, it's also your trainings that you go to for you and Tanya, because those are...
Only when it's linked to services directly involved with 4-H. Like next week, we're going to Fort Collins. That comes out of extensive travel. That'll come out of 5301.
Right, that's what I'm on, is your,
Oh, I thought you were...
CSU extension.
Oh, okay, I thought you were
Purchase
talking...
services, your 7,000 that you have in there.
Okay, oh, okay, I thought we were strictly talking EPA. Let me go up to that one. Yeah, extension purchase services, that, yes, because we collapsed everything on that 50 through 100, we collapsed everything into there. So even though travel shows on there, you know, yeah, that will come out of there. So, and there are certain things that we're required to go to every year. We have Western Slope meetings that we have to go to. We have trainings that we have to go to every year. We have to go to this forum annual meeting. Tanya has to go to 4-H regional and or state meetings. I'm trying to get them down to the minimum that we have to go to. And if we have to go to anything more than certain minimum ones, then we request funding from the state for those. We can always get at least one annual meeting paid for by the state. Let's see, what's good in there? If we have somebody come here, like there's other things I have people come here for that are not 4-H related. Like I have women come here from to look at trees. We have a lot of dying trees in the county. And that's not 4-H related, and I pay that out of there. So, yeah, anything that's not 4-H related that is that I'm paying for somebody else or for my programming, because I do a lot of you know, Master Gardener stuff and range and resource stuff, working with Callie. That kind of stuff comes out of that one.
So then supplies are pretty much flat, you know, $3,000 of supplies.
Yeah.
For.
And we try, you know, we have a lot of supplies, so we're trying to just buy bare minimum on supplies.
The weed and pest services that you see were for Columbine Park. So I took those out as it currently stands from kind of discussion of where we had, but if we maintain maintain the community pins, then I'll put that back in there for that, for that service. So that's why community pins has kind of been all over the place. Nobody really holds ownership of that. So it's been pulled through a few different places, but the weed and pest services for that has been.
I didn't even know what that was.
Charged.
Makes sense, but
charged too.
Okay.
It's the extension budget. So I did pull that out, but that's one thing that we can put back in if need be.
What was the value on it?
It's like 150.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not much.
Yeah, they went in there. So there's been a issue with the water down there, whose responsibility it is to fix it. And I thought the town was going to go out there and fix it, but then I guess, and then Boyd was going to go out there, and then he was told not to, and I don't know.
That's a sticky situation there.
Yes, it is. And so.
And we can talk about that.
Okay, let's
talk about that later. But so as far as the professional services, the extension director and agent services, we pay a portion of Belinda's salary to the state. I think it increased to $15,000.
Yeah, $15,000.
And that's all we pay for the year. Tanya's position as the
4-H agent.
4-H agent, thank you. We pay 100% of that to CSU Extension. So she is a CSU Extension employee, but we do pay 100% of that. So that makes up the 86,293 rounded of total expense there, just so that you guys are aware of that. That judge resource line item is for record book review, judging.
For the livestock.
The livestock
for the livestock record books. The other record books for the indoor gets judged. Yeah.
Okay, she's got to go get a kiddo.
Yeah, I think I got the rest of this, but so.
Did you have any other questions on?
We can.
So on the rest of the wages, so
let's go ahead and we can move over to the extension portion of that.
Okay, well, we're probably pretty much on the extension part of it. So, so we have an office administrator, that's Inga. So we have her salary on here. We have a office assistant part-time out in Rangeley, that's Jamie, that's out there in the Rangeley office. And we have an open position. So Tanya was working as a part-time office assistant. And last year, at the end of it, well, it kind of went on for a few months. We changed, Tanya's position from part-time admin to the 4-H agent. She has an undergrad in ag and a graduate degree in ag, and I was hiring her as a part-time admin. And so we got that fixed, and she's now the 4-H agent. So we have this open position, and we had it all year. And so we've got it in the budget now to fill that position. So it's not
And
a
which
new.
line item is that, Linda?
That's the third one under wages regular. It says vacancy, wages, extension, staff assistant, under extension.
Oh, you're in CSU.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We had moved on to extension. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so that's that one, and so after the budget gets approved, then I'll run an ad to fill that position, because we've just been
Okay.
doing without it. We had a temporary position, this summer, but we'll go ahead and fill that when everything's approved. And then benefits are benefits. And then all the rest of this is personnel, that I don't really have control over that.
Do you want to move on to the extension?
I think we worked, that's what we were going.
We went through first. Yeah,
Yeah.
we went there first. Did we complete that one or did
Yeah,
we?
I think that was what she
All
was
done with
going
that one.
through. She just touched on the EPA first. She actually started with the EPA and then went back.
Okay.
And went back to the EPA is what's getting cut, and that's something that is separate from the extension. Let's see if I can get down to it.
Right.
Right, it's at the top. I think she started with the extension program activities. That's the budget that isn't really a county budget. It's a money in, money out account that I have that is, based on the dues. We started with that.
Okay.
So, that's not a one that we budget out of county dollars. It's based on what I take in. So then we already went through the extension budget. And she went through my salary and the office staff salary.
Right.
And so the only thing that's really getting cut, let's see. The only thing that's really getting cut is that EPA budget, which is going to be a little bit devastating to us as far as the 4-H, but there's really nothing you guys can do about that, I guess. This is not based on you giving me money. So I'm going to have to go look for money somewhere. Just without money in that account, I have to charge kids for everything we do, and that doesn't sit right with me. But, c'est la vie.
Good then with Linda? I think you're good to go then, Linda. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Linda.
Okay. Unless Q wants to give me, or Alex wants to give me a bunch of money. Okay, I will leave you to the fair board then. I may change my mind, but I don't know where I'm gonna get money to pay for this next year. This is actually my EPA budget.
Okay, so then we're gonna go to fair board.
Thank you, ladies.
Right, thank you.
But
Gotta find it.
is it under
I'm looking under fund
Meeker
summary.
Fairgrounds or is it under?
I don't know. What is your,
County Fair, probably.
say what?
Fair? Doesn't have it.
It's not under county fair. That's what it is.
Is that?
County fair, it's under, departments.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you guys are up?
Okay, so we don't have a budget except the spreadsheet that I input the 2022 projected. I couldn't get anything to print out. Janae had to input 2023. It wouldn't input for me. I tried it for a week.
Okay.
And she struggled. So,
Do you want to come on up to the table, Renee? If you guys want to come up there and then we can. I know. Renee hates that table, but
So I don't have what we had last year, which I apologize to these guys. Yeah, I think I had it on a spreadsheet at home, but I forgot it was hid when I sent it from home to here to print it. So, we didn't change a whole lot, and they were to fill out the part on the wages, they being HR and Janae, and I've never been given that information. So we don't know. Do you have anything in there for 2023?
$30,924.84 is what I have here.
For regular wages?
Just for regular wages.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing
3,009.
under overtime or temporary.
Can you say that number
Yeah,
again?
yeah, 3,009 what?
24.84.
Yeah, and.
The next two, they
last
put
year it was
0.
6,908 with some other overtime wages, so.
They took the overtime out in the temp?
Yeah, and this one, and if you said that to Janae, she'll.
I mean, they were to get the wage information back to me, and I didn't ever get it.
Okay.
So we have nothing under any of the wage stuff. We left that in HR's hands. So what we put in was miscellaneous, the awards are 16,000.
Right.
And so you guys can see what we put in. Purchase services went up 500, just be,
Those are the ones that we solicit for. People will give us money in the
Right.
first of the year, and then.
So that's kind of like a pass through.
Yeah.
yeah, it
It's
kind of
not.
zeroes itself out.
Okay.
Same thing with miscellaneous.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if you jump down to purchase services, that's where we have like the mailing and things like that, so we increased it a little bit. Contract service, that would be our judges, and we didn't increase that a lot. Supplies, we left the same, and that gets pretty tough, because, you know, they have, we kind of share that with the extension, and they put some of that, they ear tag it towards.
I think we're already over budget, aren't we, on that line item for this
Yeah,
year?
For this year, we were.
And I told the board, I needed staplers. So we're really squeezing it down, we're sucking it down,
Right.
so we're trying on that one.
And then on awards and prizes, we left the number the same, but if you see, that's like Karen said, we bring that money in, and so it shows as an expense and a revenue. So. And then premiums, I believe, were the same, budgeted the same, in 2022 as what we budgeted in 2023. I don't have 2020.
Where's that, oh, there it is, trophies premiums, okay.
And that would have been, is that correct? It was 3,000 in 2022, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was projected and.
I projected 1,070, but it was,
And the other was 3. Mm-hmm.
That line item is pretty fluid, depending on how many entries we have at the fair.
Right.
but we really need to leave it at 3,000 in case we get more.
Okay.
We'd like to.
Yeah.
If we can.
You guys are, last couple of years have stayed under that anyway.
What's that?
You've stayed under that 3,000 the last
Yeah.
couple of years, so.
But it's nice to have it in case we can get
In case you do need.
three more, you know, and I know there's kind of a push to really work on the indoor exhibits more, so that could get up higher, hopefully. So there's our little budget.
I think we're good.
Question.
I don't have any questions.
I mean, I think we were over on wages, right? Because we ended up picking up the slack when they moved Tanya and we have that full-time position. And so they took a lot of our wages to cover everything. So
And that's why it's so much less this year than.
I guess, I wish I knew more of what
Yeah.
went into that. I mean, we went in and talked to Janae and like I said, I never did see the numbers until you just gave.
Who has those? Who would have those numbers?
Janae's got theirs.
Oh, Janae does, okay. Oh, Laura, okay.
They just didn't, I don't have them for my office even.
Yeah, we can get those. You don't have anything to say? Nothing?
I don't have anything. They
You
covered it.
better support the fair, that's all I've got to say. We're pretty easy, and it's a good thing for the community,
Very much so.
Right.
It's a fun thing for the community.
It is. It's a good thing.
for the whole county.
It is for the whole county. Absolutely.
I mean, I always, oh, it should be arranged, whatever. It's a county function, and
It is.
make it as fun as.
We were lucky when the COVID shut everything down, we were able to have our county fair, and we had people come in and say, this feels so good, it feels normal again. At that point in time, in August, it was normal for them, and it was appreciated.
You guys had a top selling steer this year, right? Big
We
time.
had a top sale in general. It was the
Top
highest
sale, I don't know,
grossing.
but the sale was, it was
Great. And then how many kids went to state?
But a few, I don't know for sure how many, because I don't know about the indoor livestock, there were about 4. It showed 4 or
There
5.
were quite a few, one of the
Lot of
dog
indoor.
kids,
Well, quite a few, actually. There's
Yeah,
about
because there were
Yeah.
dog
4
and
or 5
shooting
kids.
sports and indoor.
Yeah, and then you had a shooting at the archery or something. Somebody went and
Yeah, we had quite a few kids go to state, so.
I didn't know if Linda mentioned that, the shooting sports area has exploded, especially with the archery. We have two very good leaders, 3 very good leaders in there. And the kids are coming on really strong. This last year when we had the fair, we had 2 shooting sports judges indoor, and I think total, I'm just telling Renee, I think there was 6 judges indoor.
Wow.
2 of them were shooting sports, and they took all day with those kids.
Good. That's great.
It was the archery and 20.
And next year, there's a lot of those, ladies that want to help more with the indoor to try to get more, not just the kids, but more the county people too.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, keep up the good work.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Appreciate ya. Okay, are we done for the day then, huh? We should be, I think. I don't think there's anything else on our little
They were
deal.
sliding those ones in there. I mean, I accepted them, but sales must have been recent.
I think,
I don't remember reading it.
yeah, the Fair Board was the last one. So we can, is anybody down here? I'll send Sky a message.
Otherwise,
Okay, so
I
we
don't know.
are done at 3:58.
Let's run so that Ty doesn't pull us into that.
Say what?
I said, let's run so Ty doesn't pull us into